I'm Joe Floyd. I have 3 confessions that I'm going to share with all of you throughout my talk today. I'll start with the first one right off the bat. The title of my talk is Superheroes, but I'm definitely not a superhero, and public speaking is definitely not one of my superpowers. On the contrary, I'm a super nerd, and it is my hope to convince all of you by the end of this talk that superheroes really do exist in our world. I grew up loving Star Wars and playing Dungeons & Dragons with my older brother. I was obsessed with Duck Hunt and Super Mario Brothers, and it gets worse. I played Magic the Gathering in high school, and I can tell you that was not the way to get a prom date. And of course, I was lost in the world of comic books. The Uncanny X-Men, the Amazing Spider-Man. As you can see, there isn't a cool bone in my body, something that my wife and friends never let me forget. And you know what? That's okay. Being a nerd in junior high and high school wasn't always great, but I assure you, life gets better for nerds. In fact, right now is the best time in the history of the world to be a nerd. I'm a venture capital investor with Emergence Capital. We invest in enterprise cloud applications, which is a fancy way of saying that we invest in software for businesses. Our first investment was a little company called Salesforce, and that worked out pretty well for us. We've also invested in companies like Box and Yammer and Viva Systems, and about 40 other B2B cloud companies at the Series A stage. Now, I'd like to play a little game. I want everyone to take 10 seconds and think, what are the 5 largest companies in the US by market cap? Can anyone shout out what they think the #1 largest company is? I heard Apple. Apple's correct. Can anyone else name maybe the 2nd or 3rd? I heard Google. I think I heard Microsoft. Amazon's #4. What about the last one? It's not Exxon. It's Facebook. So we're clear, that's Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Larry Page, who I didn't recognize, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg. So what do these 5 characters have in common? For one, they all started tech companies. They all wound up changing the world and impacting the life of every single person in this room. And they all looked pretty darn nerdy in high school. It's now time for my second confession. I've told you a little bit about what I do as a venture capitalist, but I haven't told you why I do it. The truth is, I believe that entrepreneurs are real-life superheroes. Why do I believe this? I believe that entrepreneurs are superheroes because they create innovative solutions to the world's problems. Entrepreneurs create jobs, they create wealth, not just for themselves, but for their employees and for their communities. They also inspire social change and improve quality of life for everyone. And yet entrepreneurship rates in the US are declining. According to the US Census Bureau, over the last 30 years, new businesses as a percentage of all businesses have declined from 14 to 8%. Not only are fewer entrepreneurs starting businesses, but new businesses fail at an alarming rate. According to the Wall Street Journal, 3 out of every 4 startups fail. Let me repeat that again. 75% of venture-backed startups, meaning that somebody wrote a check and said this idea is worthwhile, still fail. As a venture investor, I have often wondered, why do some entrepreneurs succeed while others fail? Like superheroes, are successful entrepreneurs simply born, like Superman? Are they created, like Spider-Man? Or are they just regular guys and girls, like Batman, that make a choice? I believe that my calling in life is to help future generations of entrepreneurs develop their own superpowers, and thereby change the world. That's why I became a venture capital investor. We all love superheroes because they have great powers, and yet they still struggle with the same everyday things like the rest of us. Peter Parker can climb walls and literally jump over buildings, and yet he still can't work up the courage to talk to Mary Jane. Superman is faster than a speeding bullet, and yet he's still late for work. We love our superheroes because their struggles give us humans hope. The same is true for entrepreneurs. They set out to change the world every day, and they have to perform with scarce resources and limited time. So how do they succeed against all odds? I believe that entrepreneurs have superpowers that increase their chances of success. And I believe that these skills and character traits can be learned and shared with everyone. And I am here today to share with you the 5 superpowers of the most successful entrepreneurs that I've had a chance to work with. The first superpower is passion. Successful entrepreneurs have a passion inside of them, and that fire, intensity, and grit that causes them to push further and faster than normal. Every startup faces uncertainty and doubt, and every founder has fears. As Steve Jobs said, only the really passionate people will survive. I'm sure that you have all heard of Mark Benioff, though I imagine none of you have ever pictured him in spandex. At least I hope not. Today, Salesforce is a $60 billion company, but it all started in the late 90s out of a single rented apartment in San Francisco. Mark had this crazy idea that the internet could deliver software through a browser. Mark overcame a ton of obstacles when he started Salesforce. No traditional VC would fund him. Businesses and salespeople did not understand recurring revenue SaaS model. There were security challenges, cash flow traps, and in his second year of existence, the dot-com bubble burst. If you ask anyone that worked for Mark, none of that mattered. He was a force of nature, passionately committed to his vision, his customers, and his employees. In the early days, he frequently used the David versus Goliath metaphor, where Salesforce was David. Ironically now, today, he's Goliath. Mark infused Salesforce with a passion to solve problems and run through brick walls. The second superpower is charisma. Charismatic founders recruit people to follow their vision. This superpower manifests itself in many different forms. Founders need to recruit their employees to follow their company vision. They need to recruit capital from people that follow their business vision, and they need to recruit customers to follow their product vision. Kyle Porter is the CEO and founder of SalesLoft. Prior to SalesLoft, he was an executive recruiter, which is a background that has paid huge dividends for him. He has this natural charisma that talented people are attracted to. The company is based in Atlanta, but he's been recruiting folks from all around the world, including California, and having them relocate to Atlanta. That natural charisma extends beyond employees. And he's been able to secure Silicon Valley financing in multiple rounds of funding, and he's been able to land Fortune 500 companies from all over the globe. SalesLoft has one of the strongest cultures I've ever seen, and it starts with A players cohesively working towards a shared vision. The third superpower is speed. Move fast and break things. Now, when Zuck said this, he wasn't talking to the people building the Manhattan Project. He was talking about software. So for software startups, speed is the only advantage they have over an incumbent. Software startups have to move faster than an incumbent can change directions. Build, test, and iterate. The best entrepreneurs empower their organizations to make data-driven decisions quickly. David Sachs is the CEO and founder of Yammer up until the acquisition by Microsoft for $1.2 billion. Sachs was obsessed with building a culture of data-driven decision-making. Yammer had an internal data team. They handled all their own data infrastructure and analytics, and every employee at Yammer had access to the entire stack. Every single employee at Yammer had to know SQL, had to be able to write their own queries and analyze their own data. If you wanted anything to change at Yammer, you had to bring your own data to that meeting and support that decision. As a result, Yammer's product and marketing teams were able to build, test, and iterate faster than anyone else in that market. The fourth superpower is focus. Entrepreneurs need to focus the majority of their energy on the most impactful levers that can move a business forward. There are simply too many non-essential activities that will take time but not move the needle for a startup. The power of focus is required to prioritize and execute. Peter Gassner is the CEO of Viva Systems. Many of you may not know Viva Systems, but you probably should. Viva is a true unicorn. You know Viva. Peter raised $6 million of venture capital and built a $600 million revenue business with a market cap of $7 billion. He attributes his success to focus, both at a personal level and a company level. As CEO, he starts each quarter with the 3 highest level objectives, the ones that will move his business the furthest, and he myopically spends his time focused on nailing those 3 priorities. And the fifth and final superpower is flight. The best entrepreneurs actively seek out advice from mentors, peers, or books, and they're open to implementing new ideas quickly. This mental agility is particularly important for first-time founders. A CEO is constantly on the verge of incompetency as they push their own development to scale with their business. Entrepreneurs that seek help from those who have faced similar challenges stand on the shoulders of giants until they're able to fly. Aaron Levy is the CEO and founder of Box. He's famous for his witty tweets and bashing Microsoft, but he's also one of the most intellectually curious people I've ever met. He has an insatiable appetite for knowledge. He often stays up late reading business books. He organizes dinners with other founders or other people that have experience or expertise that he wants to have. Not many college dropouts could have built a company from zero to public, and he was able to do it because he learned at an accelerated rate and he wasn't afraid to ask for help. I hope that many of you are inspired by these entrepreneurs as I am. They have all faced challenges and they've found the inner strength to rise to meet them. Yet most entrepreneurs toil away in obscurity, hidden from the limelight. Instead, young people grow up idolizing the stars of pop culture and social media. I want my children to know that there are other heroes in this world. Inventors, visionaries, and business leaders. I want my children to look up to these people and to know that they can follow similar paths by using their hearts and their brains. Now it's time for my third confession. I combined my research on entrepreneurship with my passion for superheroes into a book called Silicon Heroes. And yes, I am pitching you right now. Silicon Heroes is an 80-page graphic novel. The story is set on a tech campus, and it follows 5 young tech workers on a quest to discover their inner entrepreneurial superpowers. The story features a diverse set of characters that serve as role models and teach the 5 powers of entrepreneurship that I just shared with all of you. My goal for Silicon Heroes are to inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs and to share a little of the magic that makes Silicon Valley special. The graphic novel was published in January, and you can find it on Amazon. I've also brought about 100 copies with me today that I'm going to give out after the talk if anyone's interested. The book has truly been a labor of love, and I'm really proud to tell you that proceeds from the book benefit Girls Who Code, a nonprofit that teaches young women how to program, and Code.org, which brings programming classes into elementary schools. I'd like to leave you with one final thought. The 5 powers discussed today are skills that anyone can develop regardless of genetics, ethnicity, or status. I truly believe that the next generation of world-changing entrepreneurs will be women, minorities, and young rebels. I truly believe that anyone can be an entrepreneur. The real question is, when life blocks your vision of the future, will you succumb to fate, or will you have the courage to put on the cape? Thank you very much.